Right now, your top competitors are out there trying to outwork you, but there's one unfair advantage that they cannot replicate. It's a psychological blueprint that allows you to win before you even begin. But before you can put this into play, you must learn to see what's invisible. Understand this: there are always two scoreboards in every competition, but only one decides the outcome. And here's the truth: before the game of choice even begins, one of those scoreboards has already determined who the winner will be. One measures performance. It tracks the points on the board, the time on the clock, the wins and the losses. But here's the secret: there's another scoreboard, one that almost no one can see. One that starts keeping score long before the game even begins. It doesn't measure talent, it doesn't measure ability, it doesn't measure your intelligence, or even care about how much experience that you have. Yet somehow, it predicts who folds under pressure, who rises to the occasion, who quits when things get difficult, and who becomes impossible to stop. Here's the scary part: most people, they don't even realize that they're losing on that scoreboard because they can't even see it. They've spent years trying to beat everyone around them, never realizing just how far behind they are. Which is why today we're going deep into one of the most important principles we've talked about yet. Because you will never beat your competitors until you beat this. Welcome to the Out Hustle Mentality Podcast, where insight meets impact. I'm your host, Joe Olivas, and today we're talking about the invisible scoreboard, and one that decides more championships, more businesses, more careers, and more lives than talent ever will. First, I need you to do something difficult for yourself. Not for me, again, for you. Remember, anything worth doing is always going to be difficult at first. I need you to become allergic to the surface level. Let me explain. Most people, they spend their entire lives trying to improve what everyone else can see: their skills, resume, physique, their business, their bottom line, their balance sheet, their performance. But the greatest battle you will ever fight isn't on the surface level, it's beneath it. If you want to understand why you perform the way you do when the pressure is on, you must be willing to go deeper. You must uncover the beliefs you have accepted about yourself and the stories that you've been telling, the identity that's quietly been keeping score long before the competition ever begins. Because here's the truth: the version of you that wins has already been built on the inside, long before it shows up for you on the outside. Most people, they never make that journey. They stay in shallow waters because it's comfortable. I get it. They avoid the deep dive because the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to hide from the truth. And the truth, it always demands a decision, and it expects answers. It will ask you questions like, will you continue living as the person you've always believed yourself to be? Or will you become the person that you were created to be? Because once you meet that version of yourself, once your belief finally catches up with your potential, then everything changes. You stop chasing confidence because you've built it. You stop looking for motivation because your identity, it pulls you forward. Things like accountability, discipline, consistency, and commitment, well, they're no longer habits that you're trying to force into your life. They become the natural expression of who you are. That's the moment the invisible scoreboard begins to change. And when that scoreboard changes, so does every competition you will ever face. Principle number 4 of the out hustle mentality philosophy states: your level of belief in yourself will determine how well you face the competition. Most people, they hear the phrase believe in yourself and their mind immediately takes them to confidence. That's not what I'm talking about here. Confidence, that comes and goes. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you question everything: your workout, your routine, whatever. Your performance, if it depends on how confident you feel that day, well, then you've already surrendered control of the outcome. I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about the vision you carry for yourself. Every single one of us has an internal picture of who we believe we are. It isn't hanging on the wall and it isn't written in a journal. It's embedded in the way we think, act, speak, the way we make decisions, the way we respond when life puts pressure on us. That vision becomes our identity. And whether you realize it or not, your identity is always competing. Every opportunity, it asks a question. Every challenge, it tests the resolve. Every setback, it exposes the weakness. Every victory, well, that reinforces the identity. When you walk into a room, you're not just walking in with your talent, you're bringing your identity with you. Some call it aura, some call it presence, whatever you choose to call it. When you step into the competition, the boardroom, the classroom, the gym, your nutrition, the job, the business, you're not just competing against another person, you're competing through the lens of the person that you have convinced yourself that you already are. That's why two people with the exact same education, same experience, same physical ability, and even the same opportunity can produce vastly different outcomes. The difference, it isn't always due to talent. The difference is in the vision the individual has of themselves before the competition ever begins. One person walks in looking for evidence that they belong. The other walks in expecting to prove that they don't. One interprets pressure as confirmation that they're growing, whereas the other interprets pressure as confirmation that they are inadequate. The circumstances didn't change, the vision did, and that vision changes everything in the world around you. Understand it. This is the invisible scoreboard. It isn't measuring your opponent or your circumstances. It isn't measuring your bank account or your followers on Instagram, your resume, or your natural ability. It's measuring one thing and one thing only. It measures what you believe is true about yourself. Because every action you take, every hesitation, every decision, every risk, excuse you come up with, every ounce of effort is simply a reflection of the score that's already on that scoreboard. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of that internal score. If your scoreboard says you're not enough, well, then you're going to hesitate. You're going to second guess yourself at every opportunity. You'll avoid the opportunities. You'll play not to lose instead of playing to win. You'll shrink when the pressure rises, not because you lack the ability, but because your identity is protecting the story that you've accepted about yourself. But when your scoreboard, the vision of your identity begins to change into something even greater, well, then everything else changes around you to match it. You must develop a level of belief in yourself that outlasts your fears, that outworks your doubts, and outhustles your weak mindset. Proverbs 29:18 reads, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." It's a pattern for life. This is the identity performance framework. Vision creates your belief. Your belief establishes your identity. Your identity defines your behaviors. Your behaviors, well, they command your performance. Your performance, that yields the results. And your results, well, that builds your legacy. You stop asking, can I do this? And you begin asking, how will I do this? How will I accomplish this? How will I get it done? You stop seeing obstacles as proof you don't belong. You see them as confirmation you're becoming the person capable of handling greater responsibility. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else because you're too busy becoming the person you've already decided that you're going to be. This competition hasn't changed, you have. That's why the greatest investment that you will ever make isn't in your business and it isn't in your career. It isn't even in your skills. The greatest competition and investment that you will ever make is in transforming the version and vision of yourself that you see every time you look in the mirror, because that vision becomes your belief. So before you ask how to beat your competition, I want you to learn to ask a better question. Who is the person walking into the competition? Because the answer to that question determines the answer to almost everyone after that. The invisible scoreboard isn't keeping score of what you've accomplished, it's keeping score of who you decided you are. And until that score changes, your life is just going to remain the same because you will never beat your competitors until you beat this, until you embrace the power of mindset visualization. Once you go down this path, the identity performance framework takes shape. You'll catch a vision of who you are. And once that happens, the world around you will never be the same, and you will not rest until you've reached your goals. It was the Greek philosopher Epictetus who's quoted as saying, "There is no peace for the man who has seen what he could become. Once you see it for yourself, nothing will stop you from reaching your goals. You'll push yourself. You'll work harder. You'll study longer. You'll sleep less. You'll learn. You'll grow. You'll excel. You'll stretch yourself. You'll sacrifice. You'll stop at nothing to reach your goals. Now imagine standing on the starting line. Your heart pounds in your chest. 8 men lined up next to you. You're getting into the position on the block. Each one has trained their entire life for this exact 10-second window. The starter pistol goes off. 8 seconds later, one man does something impossible. He stops running hard. He turns his head to look at his competitors. Then he smiles and crosses the finish line first. 9.81 seconds. That was the 100-meter semifinals at the 2016 Rio Olympics. Usain Bolt showed the world his understanding of this very principle and left us with a meme viewed by millions, smiling on an Olympic stage, slowing down while running the race and still winning. The out hustle mentality. Most people think he smiled because he knew that he was winning, but science tells us something completely different. He didn't smile because he was winning. He smiled because of a hidden neurological switch he flipped months before the race even began. Now, what if I told you you have and your brain has that exact same switch, but right now you're leaving it turned off? Why? Want to turn it on? You see, your brain processes millions of pieces of data every single second. To keep you from going crazy, it uses a filter. Scientists call this the reticular activating system, or RAS for short. Think of the RAS like a bouncer for your mind. It only lets in the information that you already believe is relevant and important to the situation. If you believe you're going to lose against tough competition, your RAS, it goes to work. It actively hunts for proof that you are failing. It notices your competitor's muscles. It highlights your own fatigue. It forces you to slow down and you lose. That's your RAS at work. Either it's hunting for proof that you're an imposter or proof that you are a champion. You get to decide, though, which program you're going to run. When you genuinely believe in your ability, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. Most people think it's just a reward after you get a win. Science proves it's an accelerator. Dopamine raises your pain tolerance. It delays the burn in your muscles. Dopamine directly reinforces your beliefs by physically changing the strength of the connections in your brain. Every time an experience confirms what you believe, a surge of dopamine acts like a stamp, locking that thought pattern in place. High belief also lowers another chemical called cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. High cortisol levels makes your muscles tight, your decisions, they become sloppy. Belief isn't just a positive thought, it's a biological shield against pressure. Here's the fascinating truth. Your self-belief doesn't just affect you, it physically infects your competition. Humans have a mirror neurons in their brain. We automatically mirror the emotions of the people we look at. When you walk into a boardroom or out onto the playing field with your absolute certainty, your competitor's brain reads your body language. Their mirror neurons fire. Their cortisol levels, well, they begin to spike. Your belief can literally make your competition weaker before the game even begins. Think Iron Mike Tyson and his sheer aura of danger, Jordan and his killer instinct, Lawrence Taylor, the scariest defensive player in the NFL, or even Barry Bonds, the most feared hitter in MLB history. Their confidence, presence, and belief in themselves intimidated their opponents so much that they would win before they'd even begin. Again, principle number 4 of the out hustle mentality philosophy. Your level of belief in yourself will determine how well you face the competition. So let's go back to Usain Bolt's famous smile. Psychologists, they studied his training. They found that he perfected visualization training. He didn't just imagine winning, he spent hours pursuing and picturing bad starts, heavy rain, fierce winds. He trained his brain to believe that he could overcome any sudden obstacle. When he smiled on the track, it wasn't arrogance, it was his RAS confirming what he had already seen in his mind 1,000 times before. He already won the race in his mind. The track, that was just the replay. Okay, so I could hear it now, but I'm not Usain Bolt. I can't run like that. I'm not an athlete, nor do I even want to be one. So this doesn't even apply to me. Well, that's exactly why you will never become the Usain Bolt of your life. You're not extracting the lessons here. That's why you're losing on the scoreboard that determines whether or not you win. Visualization is a skill, and I'm going to show you how to strengthen your visualization muscle. And I'll even include some links in the description to the articles that support this. I'm not just riffing here because I think this stuff sounds cool. Visualization requires training, just like a bicep or a hamstring. If you want to build an unbreakable mind and belief in yourself, you must practice peak method training every day. P stands for precision. Don't just visualize from a bird's eye view. Look through your own eyes, make the colors bright, the sounds loud, and the textures real. See it, feel it, taste it, smell it. Precisely how do you want it to go? E, that stands for emotion. You must trigger the actual chemical response of success. Feel the surge of adrenaline, the relief of crossing the finish line, and the pride of defeating your rival. The more you can feel winning, the more natural it becomes. A, that is for adversity. Don't just visualize perfect scenarios. Imagine making the mistake, dropping the ball, falling behind, bombing that interview, that presentation. Then visualize yourself calmly recovering and winning anyway. And K, that stands for kinetic consistency. Keep your mental practices short but highly frequent. Spend exactly 5 minutes every single morning rehearsing your biggest challenge of the day. Get those reps in. Imagine the power that you unlock for yourself when you visualize winning. Now, look at one of the greatest athletes of all time used a literal superpower to conquer the slopes. I'm talking about Olympic gold Lindsey Vonn. Picture it. It's freezing cold at the top of the mountain. The wind is howling. The world is watching. Most people would be paralyzed by fear. But when Lindsey Vaughn stood at the starting gate, she wasn't nervous. Why? Because at the time her boots hit the snow, she had already run that exact course 100 times in her mind. Every turn, every bump, every shift in weight was already locked in. She figured out how to win before she began. But how? Let's break down her formula. It's 3 distinct steps. Step 1, that was her mental rehearsal. This wasn't about daydreaming about winning a gold medal or standing on a podium. Vaughn would close her eyes and vividly picture the entire ski run in her head before she ever doing it in real life. She simulated the speed, the terrain, and the gates. But she didn't just sit still. Step 2, that's where things get fascinating. Her physical simulation. If you ever watched Vaughn at the starting gate, you see that her eyes are closed, her body's moving. She would shift her weight back and forth, leaning into imaginary turns, mirroring the exact mental path that she was taking. Step 3, well, this was her sensory focus. She practiced her exact breathing patterns. She anticipated how she would handle each sharp turn, the feeling of the G-force, and the sound of the wind. She made the mental image so real that her brain couldn't tell the difference between the visualization and reality. Now, you might be thinking, that's great for an Olympic skier, but why does this even matter to me? Well, again, the science behind why this works is mind-blowing. Visualization trains the brain. Neuroscientists have found that mental practice fires the exact same neural pathways as physical action. When Vaughn visualized a turn, her brain was building the muscle memory for it. Second, it builds unshakable confidence. By knowing exactly what to expect, you drastically lower your fear and stress when you face the real challenge because you've already been there. Finally, it improves your real time focus. When you have a clear mental plan, you react faster and make fewer mistakes because you aren't guessing for your next move. Now, you don't need to be standing on the top of an Olympic mountain to use this. Whether you have a massive presentation at work, a tough conversation ahead, or a personal goal that you want to crush, don't just think about the outcome. Close your eyes, feel the environment, breathe through the moves, run the course in your mind until success feels like a memory. Now, for me, some personal application here as it relates to this episode, my own invisible scoreboard, and principle number 4. The level of belief in myself will determine how well I face the competition. Every single one of us will eventually stand on the edge of our own personal unknown. We will look at a goal so massive, so terrifying that our experience offers absolutely zero comfort. For me, that unknown is happening right now. Episode 1 of the podcast was to introduce the out hustle mentality philosophy, the mindset and the principles that govern that philosophy. Episode 2, we touched on the British cycling team. Episode 3, we discussed Michael Phelps. And in this episode, well, we discuss Usain Bolt. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I love to recognize patterns. And by sheer coincidence, I found another one within these episodes: bicycling, swimming, and running. So let me reach back. A little over 2 years ago, my nephew Orson, he's a complete stud, by the way, he said something to me that stuck me in the moment. And I jumped right on it. He said, "Hey, Joe, we should do an Ironman." And I didn't hesitate. Yeah, we should. Whether he was serious or not in the moment, it's irrelevant. It became serious for us. We said we'd do an Ironman. Well, in 2025, we found the race. We'd hit Oceanside 2026. Neither one of us had done one, so we felt that we'd give ourselves plenty of time to learn what it entailed. We'd get whatever gear we needed, and then we'd start our training. It had to be close, so places we could drive to, mainly because I had no idea how we'd get bikes on a plane. Now, I've since figured that out, by the way. Took a minute, but I got that figured out. Well, he had to bow out due to some medical conditions and issues that he was dealing with at the time. And so I dove into my training on my end. The only experience running that I had, I mean, hardly even worth mentioning in this case, was a Tough Mudder and 2 Spartan races, but that's not the same thing. Growing up, my younger brother Richard and I, we swam. I mean, we swam a lot. The smell of chlorine still takes me back to those days. I mean, we loved the water, and we started competing at a very young age too. Training was consistent, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and competed on Saturdays for almost a decade. Now, if you're wondering though, between the two of us, Richard and I was faster, way faster. I mean, it wasn't even a contest. Richard, if you're watching or listening to this, man, shut up. Don't mess up my podcast. Anyway, as far as swimming, I've got the mechanics down. But swimming in a pool is much different than open water. And the water in San Diego come race day, so much cooler. I mean, so much cooler that things will be way different. Most of my training, quite honestly, out the window. The original Ironman was set for March of 2026. But in October of the previous year, I was in an auto accident, so I had to put off all the training for a time. Well, here we are today. And registration for me opened up yesterday for the Athletic Brewing Ironman 70.3 Oceanside, California, coming this April. 70.3 miles, 1.5 mile swim, 56-mile bike ride, and 13.1 mile run. Now, when I hit that registration button yesterday, the excitement, it was real. I could feel it. I was excited. Not only have I never done this before, I don't even have a track record to lean on. I don't have the proof yet that my body can even endure that kind of relentless back-to-back punishment. If I look backward for the confidence right now, all I will find is an empty slate, period. And that's exactly where the trap snaps shut for most people. When you attempt something that you've never done before, your mind, it tries to tell you that you don't belong there. It tells you to be intimidated by the veterans, the seasoned athletes, and the people that have been doing this for many, many years. But where there is no vision, the people perish. I refuse to let doubt swallow my ambition before I even hit the starting line. I'm not looking backward for proof. I'm looking forward with absolute vision. The excitement I feel right now isn't because it will be easy. It's precisely because it's going to be hard and what I will learn in the process. And I'm choosing to meet that challenge head on. Months before I even step onto that race beach, I'm building the vision of who I'm becoming. I'm visualizing the sweat, the early morning training sessions, the late night swims, all the workouts, everything that could go wrong to know how to respond. I'm doing that because the moment I cross that finish line, everything changes for me again. That vision is my vehicle, and it's transforming my excitement into an unbreakable self-belief. Now, I'm not just signing up to survive. I'm signing up to compete and to grow and to discover and learn things about myself and to show myself what's possible when you outlast yourself. The exciting thing for me is I'm not going to this thing completely unarmed. I'm going into this with a system, a framework, a pattern that I can follow. I'm going into this with what I call the hustle protocol. It's a behavioral operating system designed to eliminate resistance, accelerate consistency, and transform action into identity. And it applies to any area of your life. I'm just going to apply it here because motivation fades. Systems don't. The out hustle mentality is the philosophy. The hustle protocol is the system. Now, H stands for your heroic identity. U, that's your ultra micro step. S is the sudden start. T is the targeted sprint. L stands for the level up streak. And E is the escape proof safety net. This is where I create the avatar, move and remove the friction, launch myself with a focused objective to create the momentum that becomes consistent in my life. For me, when it comes to Ironman Oceanside, it isn't going to be a race. It's going to be patterns over motivation, systems over emotions, and execution over excuses. And I'm stoked. Now, if you've ever competed in a similar race, know somebody that has, please drop a comment with whatever advice, counsel, direction that you've got. Because I'm finding my way to the finish line one way or the other. That's not even a question. I'm getting to the finish line. Now, as we wrap up this episode, though, I want to leave you with one final thought. Every competition has a scoreboard, but the most important scoreboard, the one you should be most concerned with, is the one that no one else can see. It's the one you carry with you every single day. It's the one that determines how you respond to pressure, adversity, setbacks, opportunity, the criticism, and even the success. The invisible scoreboard, it isn't keeping score of your accomplishments, it's keeping score of the vision that you and belief that you have of yourself. Vision creates your belief. Belief establishes your identity. Identity defines your behaviors. Your behaviors command your performance. Your performance yields results. Your results builds your legacy. That's the identity performance framework within the out hustle mentality. And the hustle protocol is the system that creates the predictable pattern. Once you understand that framework, once you realize how powerful that is, something incredibly powerful happens for you. You don't change your life by chasing better results. You change your life by changing the version of the person producing those results. That's why principle number 4 isn't simply about believing in yourself. It's about intentionally creating the version of yourself you want to become. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you're visualizing your future. You're either rehearsing conversations before they happen and imagining success, or you're imagining failure. Your mind and body, they're responding accordingly. Visualization isn't wishful thinking, it's mental conditioning. It's training for your mind to recognize the identity you're choosing to become before your body can ever prove it. The greatest athletes in the world, they have understood this for decades. And this lesson, it applies to everyone. Train the picture of you that you carry of yourself, because eventually the body follows the mind. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Registration opened up yesterday. I locked in, not because I believe I'm already an Ironman, but because every single day I'm becoming one. Every workout, every early morning trip to the gym, every swim, every mile on the bike or the road, every decision to stay disciplined, every choice to watch what I intentionally put into my body, every decision to keep showing up. No matter how I feel on any given day, I'm committed because that's my vision. I'm reminded of a quote from a lecture that I used to listen to on repeat called Profile of a Champion by a gentleman named George Zolicki, I believe, where he stated, commitment is doing the thing you said you'd do long after the mood you set it in has left you. And I like that. So I'm changing the score on my invisible scoreboard. I'm becoming the person capable of accomplishing what seems impossible to so many. And so to the knuckleheads out there, projecting their own insecurities, saying, calm down, Joe, it's only a half Ironman. Well, each year, roughly 0.013, 0.01 to 0.013 total U.S. population even starts an Ironman. Percentage of those that finish is even smaller. So half Ironman or full, at this point, it doesn't even matter. Now I'm inviting you to come along for the journey. Over the coming months, I'll take some time to give you some updates on the progress, the victories, setbacks, the lessons, the breakthroughs. But this won't become an Ironman podcast, though. We have way more of the out hustle mentality philosophy to cover and how it can impact you personally in your life. You just get a bit of an inside look into how it's impacting me on this particular journey. The podcast, it's never been about motivation. It's about transformation. It's about building systems that outlast emotion. It's about becoming the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves long after the excitement fades. And this is only the beginning. Share more of the hustle protocol in upcoming episodes as the framework for transforming the way you think, act, and perform, so that ultimately you become the person you were created. And we'll go over that in other episodes. I can't wait to share that with you. But until then, start paying attention to your invisible scoreboard. Listen to your conversations that you're having with yourself. Become aware of the version of you you're carrying every single day, because that vision is becoming your belief, and that belief is becoming your identity, and your identity is shaping every decision that you make. Remember, you will never beat your competitors until you understand the power of mindset visualization. Win before you begin. If today's episode challenged the way you think, I have one favor to ask. Share it with someone who's ready for more, someone who's tired of settling, no matter the area of focus in their life, someone who's ready to stop competing against the world around them and start winning the battle within them. And then drop a comment. Tell me what score you're changing in your own invisible scoreboard this week. I'm your host, Joe Olivas. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes or content, because trust me, we're just getting started here. Keep building your vision. Keep raising your standard. Keep chasing the score and build a life where your legacy is determined not by what you wished for, but by who we choose to become. This is the Out Hustle Mentality Podcast. I'm Joe Olivas. Remember, it's all about the hustle. Catch you on the next episode.